Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. A little frog in my throat there. To another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at the last of the martial arts tree, because we've already covered everything else. That is Dragon Flight. Dragon Flight is a skill that's gone over some changes in recent years, recent patches. It used to have a delay on it. It used to not be anywhere near as good as it is now, and now it's honestly kind of amazing because you can literally just spam it. It's also, since it is a teleport, you can teleport across gaps. You can also teleport to monsters that are outside of line of sight. I've actually done this a couple times, and let me see if I can display how this works. I'm trying to think of a good place that has like some out of line of sight stuff. With teleport, you can pretty much just like tell it where to go, right? So you don't necessarily have to see the monster that you're teleporting to, and you don't necessarily have to actually, like physically line of sight see the monster that you're teleporting to. You only have to be able to click on them. So like for instance, in this scenario, you can see on this other side is a skeleton, right? I can teleport to the skeleton from the other side of the line of sight. It's not outside of my power because I can still physically click on the monster. So as long as you can physically click on the monster, as long as you can supposedly see them, you can do the teleport. Now it's important to note that when you teleport in, you're at risk. Obviously you're teleporting directly into the monster. You do get, obviously, the first hit off because that first kick is going to be your initial, dynamic entry. And I hate to say this because it really is. It totally is the frickin' dynamic entry ability from Naruto. You're literally Guy Sensei, and you are literally dynamic entering around the frickin' map because you literally kick your way into the battle, and as soon as you're in the battle, well, what do? You've dynamically entered, but now what's your goal? Dynamically exit. Now it's really nice because you can obviously build up charges. You can release those charges as you're teleporting around, which can make it much safer. One way that you can do this, which is extremely safe, is building up blades of ice charges before you teleport, because this will, of course, make the monsters frozen as you're teleporting around, which is obviously going to make it a lot safer because the monsters are going to be nice and chilled, frozen, etc. Maybe you shatter a couple of them as you're passing by. In general, when it comes to this ability, though, it does only kick one time. So if you're building up charges or something of that nature, like maybe you have Phoenix Strike running, you're not going to be able to burn all of the charges really quickly, so you're going to have to teleport, and hopefully you'll burn all of them eventually. Honestly, Dragon Flight used to be an ability that was mainly just utilitarian. It was not like a actual ability that you could build a character around. You would build a character and you would utilize Dragon Flight to, get around. Maybe pass over a particular gap or close the distance on something. Maybe you would use it to enter, dynamically enter a fight. But for the most part, before they had changed it, because of the long delay, it made it relatively difficult to actually use it as a main ability. Nowadays, with the delay gone, and quite honestly, it just simply works a hell of a lot better. You can actually use it as a main ability if you would like to. You can just simply teleport around, kick, constantly teleporting around, building charges. Also, the other important thing here is that, well, because of the way that they changed charges and finishers so that Dragonflight always hits its target, as you're teleporting around with charges, every single time you land on a target, you are guaranteed to hit that target with your Dragonflight. Now, Dragonflight is a kick, and it's important to note that it utilizes kick damage on the boots, which is a quality thing, not a item-based thing. So the damage, kick damage on the boots is based upon the, number one, the quality, so normal, nightmare, hell, or normal, exceptional, elite, whatever you want to call it. And the elite ones are obviously going to have the highest damage, and the highest effect is on the boots that have the highest defense, which the Myrmidon Greaves is actually the highest defense, highest strength requirement pair of boots in the game. And they also happen to have the highest kick damage. So Myrmidon Greaves can come in quite a few forms. You can find Myrmidon Greaves Shadow Dancers. You can upgrade Gore Riders to the Myrmidon Greaves. You can also even upgrade a pair of IK boots to Myrmidon Greaves. And if you were to upgrade something like Goblin Toes, they eventually become mirrored boots, and mirrored boots do not have the same amount of kick damage as these. Kick damage is the only form of damage that's going to affect the physical damage output of this. You can apply Crushing Blow and Open Wounds, but grief damage effects and other type effects like that, like plus bonus to demon damage, plus bonus to undead damage, min-max, things like that. Whatever is on your weapon doesn't really have a huge effect. Certain effects that are on your weapon, like chance to cast and things like that, will actually transfer. Elemental damage will transfer. Venom actually does, even though it doesn't show on the character panel for some reason. And for the most part, Dragonflight tends to be one of those interesting abilities that you can use for, getting around, traversing, and bombing things. PvP is actually a pretty good use for this ability because you can literally just Dragonflight directly onto a target. And if you have at least one charge running, you can guarantee your hit will land on the target when you Dragonflight your way in. The faster your faster cast is, the faster you can spam that teleport on the target over and over again, trying to, catch them or whatever it is that you're doing. Now, granted, with this particular ability, it does require 1, 2, 3, 4 points to get down to it. And on top of that, we also have the fact that it's pretty much a 1-point wonder. Not a lot of people are going to put a huge number of points into Dragonflight. And the reason why is because it's just, there's no point. It doesn't really have like a huge increase in damage as you level it up. It does increase some. But unless you're going to make it your main damage ability, it doesn't really matter. Because you're probably going to use other abilities as well. Dragon Talon is definitely better in terms of number of kicks. Dragon Claw is definitely better because it allows you to apply your actual claw damage, which if you have a particularly good pair of claws, could be particularly potent. Dragon Tail is better in terms of AoE damage. So when you get into a group of monsters, for instance, one thing that you may want to consider is that when you are actually in the pack, when you are actually teleporting your way in, one thing that you may want to consider is that you use Dragon Tail instead. And the reason why is because when you teleport into the pack, Dragon Tail has a explosive effect, will hit all the monsters around you in a nice little radial circle, right? So you teleport your way in, and then you kick while you're inside the middle of them, and as you can see, it hits just about every single monster in the pack. Which is another interesting way that you can potentially do things. And this is what I like to do with Dragon Flight, is that I will utilize things like Phoenix Strike or Fists of Fire, Claws of Thunder, things like that. Get myself in the middle of a danger, dynamically enter, essentially, into a battle, and then utilize all my attacks to take those targets out. Sorry about that. Still recovering from this illness, I swear. Probably not the best day to record videos, but I don't really think there's a lot more to go over when it comes to this ability anyway. I'm going to do a quick double check on my Amazon Basin here. And it will transport your mercenary and your pets. So this is actually kind of a neat one. I found that when I was using an enchant merc, because they have fireball, the same way that Dragon Tail has the explosion, of course, Fireball has the explosion too, and so I teleport in, and the mercenary's just, he's just chucking them fireballs out, and then they're just exploding and hitting everything within the radius too, which is pretty effective. I think that's pretty much it. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about a teleporting ability like Dragonflight. And as always, keep watching.